Yes, lads, what is going on? Welcome to episode 23 of the Under-23 Sorare Road to Glory. I hope you're all having a wicked day. I hope you're all having an awesome game week. Today's video is going to be jam-packed. We've got outgoings, we've got 3 new sign-ins, we've got Cap 240, 220, and Under-23 limited teams to prepare. And so if you are new to the channel, lads, and you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. And without further ado, lads, let's get into things. So as always, we look back at how we got on last weekend, starting with Cap 270. Where we scored 300 points. Everyone bar Jorgen Larsson were in the green, but unfortunately nowhere near enough points to even get a tier 5 limited. We were just under 60 points away from hitting the first card reward, and yeah, got my captain wrong. Clerk wasn't the captain play. Clearly it was Madsen or Montez. Montez with a really good AA score, actually. Really encouraging there. Madsen with a goal away to Ghent. I really thought Westerlo would struggle here, but Westerlo held him to a 2-2 draw, which is pretty encouraging. Celta Vigo couldn't score a goal against Girona. Larsson with a big chance missed. Attempted assist as well. Campos with 10 AA in a 1-0 defeat. Amobieta are struggling right now, so no luck in 270. And we've also got a bang average score in Cap 220 as well. 226 points here. I thought my cheat code Gaetano was going to start the game. He obviously didn't. Came on, got 1.7 AA. Nowhere near enough. Monchu as my captain blanked at home to Racing Santander in a 3-1 win, actually. Surprised he didn't get any of those decisives. Koulibaly with 5 AA in a 1-1 draw. No shots on target for him. Darland with a relatively okay AA in a 1-1 draw. But again, quite surprised with Standard Liège getting a point away to Cercle Bruges. And then Campelat with 20 AA in a 1-1 draw. His scores have actually really increased over the last couple of game weeks, which has been really encouraging. So since game week 441, you got 18 AA, you've got a clean sheet in there. Not very good against Kasimpasa, but to be fair, they conceded 2 goals. And then 20 AA this last weekend against Antalyaspor. So things are definitely looking up for Campelat. But yeah, 226 points. It's nowhere near enough. We will be looking at the long form leaderboards in a minute after we've looked at 240. Just a very average score. Nothing really to talk about here. And then 240 was where it got bitterly disappointing, lads. Have a look at that. I thought we could trust in the boy Suso, but he lost his head, lads, and got a red card. Gutted, to be honest, because he started the game 8 AA. I was only 17.62 points away from the threshold. Zidane with a clean sheet. Darland, obviously, we've spoken about. Drioech, which we need to speak about as well, but getting himself an assist as our captain, and Cham coming off the bench as well. So, my 2 midfielders there have absolutely killed me. And yeah, if Suso didn't get, red carded, we would have probably not cruised towards the threshold, but we definitely would have hit it. And it's just really disappointing, lads, honestly. I'm just gutted. I think it was a straight red as well, so we've lost him for 3 games. I knew there was a reason why I didn't have him in this series from the start, even though I've had this card for over 2 years now. I thought he was going to be a bit of a curse for us, and it has turned out that way. But yeah, it is what it is. We can't really do much about it now. And then, yeah, Cham coming off the bench as well. 1-1 draw for Clermont-Foot. Shot on target, big chance miss. The same old story. But going over to the long form leaderboard, I just wanted to show you how we're looking in 220, because it is sort of closing in on the last couple of game weeks. So as you can see, I have 3 scores on the board: 356, 234, and this most recent 226. So I need to score basically 274 points to get ourselves a tier 3. But everyone else is gonna increase their scores as well. So that's probably going to increase in itself, probably to like 300. I'm going to assume. We've got 3 game weeks, well, basically 2, because we didn't play 220 this midweek whilst we're sort of talking about this video. And then we've got this weekend, which is 447, and then we've got next midweek. So I'm not really too sure how many legit efforts we've got left. We've basically got this weekend for sure, and then we're going to have to see, if we are sort of in the mix after this weekend, then potentially we might need to field the team for next midweek to try and bolster our chances of getting one of the tier 3s or above in the Super Cup 220. So I am going to prioritize it this week. I'm not going to make it my bread and butter. I think 240 is going to be that for us, and then maybe 220, and then probably under 23 limited. We're going to go over and have a look, though, at the expected scores over on Play Sharper. Actually, before that, let's go into the ins and outs, because we have done a bit of business, lads, in the last day or so. So as you can see, we've got 3 new signings in the form of Sofian El Karauni, we've got Carlos Martin, and Marco Pasalic. Now, because we're doing such a great job over on the Road to Glory of breeding players into the gallery and them sort of flourishing and becoming higher L15 players, we do have to go out shopping and find some lower L15 players to fit into the cap modes, to fit into our 240s, because otherwise we just can't play those competitions. Now, I'm not saying every player I buy seemed to just go up in L15. We have had some stinkers, Richie DeLate being one of them. But yeah, we've brought in 3 new players, all different positions. We've covered all 3 positions of, defender, midfielder, and forward. All L15s below 45, which is really encouraging. We've got Carlos Martin, I think, was the most expensive card. Paid, what did I pay for him? £4.56 for him. He's a number 9. He's not somebody that's going to get us tons of AA, but at his L15 level, I think we can kind of deal with that. As long as he's getting us decisives, I haven't really got a problem with it. Sofian was really, really cheap. I think he was less than £1. What was he? Yeah, 89p for the new card as well. So 7.5 XP, which is important. He sort of found himself back into the side. Last 5 games have been quite encouraging. Decent AA from him. And yeah, L15's 38, and he has a really good fixture this weekend, which we will sort of have a look into. And then Marco Pasalic, who plays for Riker. He has been involved in set pieces for them, which is quite encouraging. Hasn't really scored that well since coming back to Riker. He was previously in the Bundesliga. And yeah, £2.69 I think we paid for him. I think Basel gave us a bit of a, maybe not a deal, but he was a little bit cheaper than, I think he just matched the lowest on the market, to be fair, the floor. So we've got a 6% on him, brand new card. So to fund those 3 purchases, even though we had £10 in the balance, we did go and sell our Kuhaib Driwech card, which we've held for a long, long time. We bought him 5 months ago, basically at the start of this series. We sold him an hour ago. Driwech, bought him for £9.40, sold him for £9.50. It's a 10p profit. Any profit's a profit, lads. We'll have to take it. And like I said, we've brought in these 3 new cards down here. Spent less on the cards coming in than we did on Driwech. So we do have a balance now of £11.91. Like I said, we've sold our Driwech. I'm gutted in a way because he was a massive part of this series. But the big reason why I have sold him is because he is moving to PSV. It's deadline day whilst I'm filming this, and PSV have bidded like 4.5 million euros, I believe, for Driwech. It looks like it's been accepted by Excelsior. And you know what? I'm not sitting here, and saying that he's not going to do well at PSV. But in the short term, I just don't think I need to take that risk. And if I can recoup a decent amount of the money that we paid for him, and even make a slight profit, then I think I'm going to have to take it. Because I think Lozano's going to be that sort of left winger for PSV. Noah Lang is injured. Jorbe Vertessen has left Union Berlin. So Driwech has come in as the sort of, Lang/Jorbe replacement. I think he'll do well there. Like, he's young enough to sort of not need to play too much right now. Like I said, I think Lozano will be that starting left wing. But if he does get injured, there is obviously a spot for Driwech. I do think sometimes in this game it is beneficial to sell the hype on some players and make reinforcements elsewhere. Like I've done, I've turned, 1 Driwech card into 3 cards basically, and kept a little bit of change as well. So I think it's going to be beneficial for the gallery, specifically mine, because I don't have that many cards in this Road to Glory. So turning 1, good card into 3 decent/good cards is, for me, decent business. And, like I said, I don't know if Driwech is going to be a 90% starter every week, and I kind of need him to. I don't have many forwards. So bringing in the reinforcements that I have, allows me to just be a bit safer with the gallery and the cards I have. We're going to go over to the expected scores on Play Sharper. And as you can see, Carlos Martin has a great fixture this weekend. He plays Villarreal 2 at home. 95% on to start. We've got Madsen in there at 95. Clerk's up there. Montez doesn't have starter predictions yet, but a good away fixture for him. We've got Campos at 90. Darlin's in there as well. Kleinhansel feels like the forgotten defender of this series. I haven't played in the last 2 weekends, and he's smashed in like 40 AA and 30 AA. I don't know what I'm doing with myself, so I'm definitely playing him this weekend. We've got Ivan Heel in there. We've got Palisic in there as well at 70%. Sofian's at 90% at home to Volendam, like I mentioned. Really good fixture for Utrecht there. We've got Brennan Johnson, who came on last night and got himself a goal. He plays away to Everton. We've got Suso, obviously, who's suspended. Monchu's in there. We've got Larson at 85% away to Osasuna. Koulibaly's only at 20%, which is quite disappointing. Hence why we needed to bring in the forward reinforcements. We've got Cham at 25, Kamplat at 90. Duhara's at 20%. Richie DeLate, I don't know what has happened to him. He was one of my worst buys ever. Terence Boyd is in Division 3, like we've mentioned. Zidane's in there as well. And that is basically it, lads, for this weekend. Now, going over to Sorare data. Like I mentioned earlier, we are going to be focusing on 240 because we were so close to hitting the threshold last week. I think it needs to be our bread and butter for now. And similar to last week's video, we are probably going to have to choose between under 23 limited and 270. Last weekend, we went for 270. Who knows what we do this weekend. So, 240 time, lads. So, looking at goalkeepers, the lowest L15 we've got there is Kamplat at 43. which does look quite enticing. They play at home. They play at home to Adana Demirspor. The clean sheet probabilities obviously aren't great, but I do sort of believe in his AA capabilities, and for him to outscore 43, I think it's quite possible. In the form the Pendixspor are in, Camplat at home, but, you know, Santander a decent team. And then Zidane plays away to Racing Ferrol, second v third in the league. Even though the odds or the clean sheet probabilities are the highest here, I still think we can probably get away with playing Camplat here. And then sort of that gives us an extra 5 L15 points to sort of play with, you know, for the outfielders. Let's go over to forward first, because I think this one picks itself. We're going to have to go with the new boy Carlos Martin. 44 L15 at home to Villarreal 2. Bit of a no-brainer for us there, I think. And then in midfield, we've got Madsen, whose L15 is pretty high, but he's on fire right now. L5 of 63. I do still fancy him to outscore his 58 at home to Leuven, who had a really good result actually against Genk midweek. We've got Palisic in there, the new boy. We've got Monchu, Ivan Heel to choose from. I'm going to throw Madsen in for now because I think we have sort of saved up enough L15 points between Campbell and Martin to probably afford Madsen. Gives us 95 points left. Now, if we play our new Sofian El Karauni, who has a great home fixture, all at home, by the way, so far, which is so nice for myself to see that. And then we've got 57 points left. Frustratingly enough, we can't play Clerk, who's 58 points for his L15. They play at home as well. That would have been so tasty. We've got Montez in there, though, at 55. His L5 is ridiculous. They play one of the sort of worst teams in the Mexican league, even though that league's just started. So, you know, I can't really read into that too much. But I do think he's probably going to be our best bet, although it is away from home. Okay, let's go with Montes in here then. We're going to captain Madsen. That leaves us with a lineup strength score of 78. I can't remember the last time we saw above a 75. So I'm taking a 78 all day long. Let's go into 220 then. Now, for the goalkeeper situation, we do have 2 limiteds. The idea normally in 220 is, you know, try and find a common keeper because it's just a lot cheaper. But the fact that I have 2 limiteds, I'm only going to play 3 lineups this weekend, and one of them is going to be 220. I think we could still make use of Zidane. Now, for the common, I did do a bit of research earlier, lads. I used the tactic that I mentioned to you guys in the last video, which is the whole play sharper. You go to League, Champion Europe. We go down to L15 scores, bring that down to like 30 odd. And then we go to starter prediction. We'll bring that up to like 60%. And yeah, this is kind of the little sort of cheat code way that I've managed to find a couple of, you know, common cards that can fit into 220. Of course, they need to be Champion Europe because you can't get the common cards, you know, of any other league basically. And I just had a little look down this list. Tariq Lamptey really sort of stood out for me. L15 of 25, 80% on to play. Brighton obviously got battered midweek against Luton. I think he probably comes into play there at home against Palace. There's still some other really good options. Tino Kadewere, Cho's in here. Akdali's in there. We've got another page as well with a couple of players. We've got a goalkeeper actually, but it's Strasbourg and they play at home to PSG. Even though his L15 is 0, I still don't really trust him to outscore 30. I mean, he probably does, doesn't he? He's probably the play. But like I said, the fact that I already have 2 goalkeepers, I'm just going to use my Zidane, and I think Lamptey's going to probably play in defense. 25 is enough to where, you know, we can afford to have, you know, decent enough forward and an extra position. I mentioned the Pasalic is going to be our midfielder with that L15 of 40. We're going to toggle this to just show us our limiteds only. And in here, we basically either go with Jorgen Larsson or Brennan Johnson. Brennan's a bit dodgy. He didn't play midweek. He scored, but I don't think he's going to start this weekend. So I'm going to go with Larsson in here. That leaves us with 58 points. Which allows us to get in Clerk, who's at home against Burgos. 47% clean sheet probability. He's been on fire for us recently. And you know what? I think he deserves the captain's armband as well. So we're going to give it to him. 3 home fixtures, 2 away fixtures. We're going to save that. And then it's the decision now of under 23 limited or 270. I'll show you what the team looks like in under 23 limited first. With Campos in goal. The only forward we can really play is Johnson. Like I said, I don't know if he starts. It's one of them where it's a bit of a toss-up. He's 60% on play sharper. We've got 2 midfielders to choose from in Ivan Heel and Monchu. It's quite a tricky one, this, because I never really fancy Monchu away from home. They play Leganas, who are first in the league. Ivan Heel also plays away, but he's away to Tenerife, who aren't really as good as Leganas comparatively, but Valladolid are a bit better than Andorra. So it kind of evens itself out a little bit, but I do think Ivan Heel's probably the better play. Just going off Monchu's previous scores away from home, I never really seem to fancy him there. Now, I mentioned Klein Hansel's been ridiculous recently. Have a look at these scores. 42 AA in a 0-0 draw at home to Paderborn. And then in a 2-1 loss he got 33. So I've missed out on both of them. Now, as they say, things come in threes. So I am going to have to play him here. Even though the fixture isn't great, I'm just going to have to risk him. And I do think we're going to have to play one of our Darlands in there as well. I'm going to go in and captain Darland because home fixture, probably the easiest matchup on there. Best chance of potentially getting some really decent AA and a clean sheet. Klein Hansel is definitely a shout for captaincy as well, but I'm a little bit worried about his fixture. Now, that team would easily fit into 270. I just don't think it really stands a chance there, if I'm being honest, lads, looking at it. This is not to say that Brennan can't come off the bench and score a goal. He did yesterday. Very capable of doing that, but even the rest of the matchups aren't amazing. They're fine. It's a 66 lineup strength score. Let's see what it would look like in 270 first. Well, it's only 2 points less, to be fair. It's not even that much different, but I do think we are better off playing it in under 23 limited, so I'm going to go in and do that. Let's see what it actually suggests. I think it's going to suggest Monchu. Let's scrap that. Let's throw in Heel there, and then let's go Klein Hansel, just because I can't miss out on another good score from him. I think that will conclude our lineup building for this video. So that's 78 on the 240. We've got 67 in 220, but that takes into account that, you know, Sorare Data community members don't seem to think the Lamp Deal Play Sharper does. So I think that score is a little bit skewed. And then we've got 66 in under 23 limited. The fact that Brennan probably doesn't start is quite accurate, to be fair. I can kind of agree with that. I'm really, really expecting to hit that 240 threshold this weekend, if I'm being honest. I even think we could push for a card, genuinely, with the matchups. 4 home fixtures, and the Montez fixture is still pretty decent for him. 220's decent enough. If we can hit, 300 plus is obviously the aim. We need a big score from Clerk. And then under 23 limited, it's just a best of a bad bunch, basically, isn't it? We can't really do too much about, the last lineup of our lineup building, because chances are it's going to be the scraps, realistically. Even though there's 2 home fixtures in there, it might do okay. I'd love to hit the threshold. I'd love to hit 300 plus in 220. If we can scrape a card in under 23 limited, then obviously that would be insane. I don't think that's going to happen. Let me know what you think in the comment section, lads. Let me know what you think of the teams. Let me know what you think of the signings as well. I hope you did enjoy this episode. If you did, please do leave it a like. Good luck for this upcoming weekend, and I shall catch you in next week's episode.